All right, hello once again. Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I'm going through this Magic 8-Ball application. We're in part 2, and one thing I did add, just so you know that, was I wanted to make sure when you submit, we made our text box invisible. We disabled our submit button, but I also want to enable the reset form button. That was erroneous for me not to put that in there. So what we do here and what we do here are mirror images of one another, so they're opposites for lack of better words. So text box visible false, text box visible true. Submit question false, submit question true. Reset form true, reset form false. All right? Now, time to go onward and upward. And what I want to do is I want to change this box, and I want to set it up so that when we click this button here, this is going to have an image in it, but I also want it to have the Magic 8-Ball image when we start. So what I'm going to do first is this. I'm going to do this and I'm going to come back and explain it. So I'm going to click here where it says Magic 8-Ball. That's the name of my project. I'm going to right mouse click on it and I'm going to choose Add New Folder. And notice it added a new folder right here, and I'm going to call that folder Images. Okay? Now I want to, again, right mouse click on here and choose Add, but this time I want to add existing items. You will have this information available to you, but on my desktop I've got a folder called Images, and that folder right now, it said there's nothing in there. Yeah, there is, but it's looking for C# files. I want it to look for image files, so I'm just going to come down and choose All Files, and there they are. So I want to choose all of these, so I'm going to do a Control A. Oops, I guess I didn't want to do a Control A. All right. All of them. All right. And I'm going to click Add. And that added all of those to my folder. So I now have them all available to me. Well, the one I want right now is I want the one that's called 0, because why? That actually is the 8-ball. So I'm going to click on here on my image box. And when I go down there, or I'm sorry, my picture box, there's a thing called image, and right now it says none. But if I click on where it says none, I can click the ellipsis there, and I can say I want to grab a local resource, and I want to import it in. And this is the file that I want. There it is. Click, and there I've got it. All right. Now, I'm going to tell it to take the size mode of this. Right now it's set to normal, and I'm going to say auto size it, which means make it the right size. And then I'll take this, which is now locked, so I have to unlock it, and I want to put it about in the middle, about there, and then I'll lock it back up again. Now notice that when I run the program, how different it looks. All right. Now, one thing, you may or may not agree on this, but I had the white background. I'm going to show you where I got these images from in just a minute. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my background that I made purple. I'm going to make that white. And this text box that is white, I'm going to make that this purple. And if you say I don't understand what you're doing, just watch for a second. Hopefully it'll make sense. So I'm going to click here on the text box, and I'm going to change its background color, or back color, and I'm going to make it that purplish. Now it looks like it disappeared, but you can see it's still there. Then I'm going to click on my form, and I'm going to change its background color back to white. All right. Now that white that's around here blends in. So notice now after I've done this, and I run the program again, that looks a little bit more natural. All right. Believe it or not, there's not all that much to do anymore. We're going to do a couple things first, and then we're going to write the code to actually hopefully make this work. All right, so first thing that we want to do. Well, if you noticed, right here, we put our code, this is code, we put it right into our button. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to cut this code out. I highlighted all of it. I'm going to do a Control X, and I'm going to type here submit question, and it's going to give me a bunch of red squigglies. And don't worry, I got to fix that, but I just want it to be called submit question. I don't want this menu item on there. Oops. All right. right? I want it to be called submit question. And I get that curly's there because there isn't anything, there is no routine called submit question. But I'm going to type here private void submit question paren curly brace. I'm going to paste that code back in. All right. Well, why did I do that? Well, right now it worked just fine the way it was. But now when you click the button, it's going to call a routine called submit question that's going to run this code. This should be totally transparent to the end user. So if I click it, see how it still works, but it's calling different code now. It's calling, because I wrote the code, instead of calling this code directly from in here, it's calling this code, which is calling this code. So why did I do that? Well, I did that so now I can double click on my menu option here and I can type in here submit question. And ideally now when we get done and we run this, I can submit this way, or I can now submit this way. And you notice how they both work. All right, now I'm going to do similar things with the other two buttons. So my exit that I've got right here, submit question menu item. Submit question. Oh, that's our menu item, right. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to grab my reset stuff, highlight it, just like I did before, Control X, and I'm going to type in here reset form. Again, I'll get the curlies. Until I come down below it and I type in private void reset form, and I paste that back in. So again, now when I click the reset form button, it calls this routine, which calls this routine. But the reason I did that is so I can also call that same routine from my menu option. So let's see if that one works. So now these two menu options should both work. So submit, boom, reset, boom, submit, reset, submit, reset, submit. So all those work. So now I've got to link up my exit button here with the button right here, or my exit menu option there with the button there. So let's do that. So I'm going to grab my exit button code, just as we've been doing. I'm going to highlight all of it, Control X. We'll call this exit application. And again, down here, I'll put private void exit application. Paste that in. Save it. Run the program again. Now I should be able to either click here or I should be able to click here. Not taking it. Well, that might be part of the problem that we were having before. So we're going to fix that in just a minute. But that still works. Oh, I don't think we added it yet. So let's add that right now. So come back in here, double click our exit button. There it is. That's why it didn't work. So we'll type in here exit application. Now let's run the program. So we can now use our buttons to submit and reset and exit, or we can use our menu options to submit, reset, and exit. So all that works. The only thing that doesn't work right now is help. So let's fix that. And I'm going to take a little bit of the code I already wrote here. I want to grab that message box that's right there. All right. And when I click my menu option, I'm not going to put the code in here. I'm just going to call show help message. And down below this, I'm going to put in private void show help message. Now, you might say, well, Jeff, why are you actually writing the code in another routine? Why didn't you put it there? Because you only have the one menu option. We might decide to add a button later. So now we've got messagebox.show, And we'll put in here let's even make this easier for ourselves. Okay, let's create a string, which is just a bunch of characters. And we're going to call it message. And we're going to set it equal to, we'll start by, let's see. This is a magic 8-ball application. I'm going to explain what all this means in just a second, so this will look a little funny for a minute. Now I'm just telling it to append or add on to that message. Key in a question in the purple text box below. Then either click the submit question button. Oh, my machine sometimes goes a little wacky, so. Or menu option. I'll just get rid of the word either there. It'll give me a little more room. Then click this or this. All right. And your answer will appear in the magic 8-ball. Click the reset form button or menu option to reset you can see, like I said, sometimes my machine goes a little haywire. Click the exit button or menu option to quit. All right. Now, rather than saying all this stuff that we have here, inside of our message box, we're going to put in here just message. All right, so that'll print all of this stuff, hopefully. And this will say magic 8-ball instructions. And I don't need a yes, no here. This can just be okay. And the icon will be information. All right, let's see how that works. Save, run it, and then click our help. This is a magic 8-ball application. Key in the question in the purple text box below, then click the submit button or menu option and your answer will appear in the magic 8-ball. Click the reset form button to reset, and it's a lot of text in there, but I could put some more line breaks in to make it look a little nicer. All right, so this is a magic 8-ball application, \n, which is a new line. Key in the question in the purple text box below, then click the submit or exit. Your answer will appear in the Magic 8 Ball. Okay, another \n here. Click the reset button, another \n here. Click the menu option to quit. I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to put another \n here. I'm going to add one more line. Like the real Magic 8 Ball, this is for fun only. So we're letting the person know that don't plan your life based on what's happening here. All right, so let's save it and run it one more time and see if we made it look a little nicer. Help. All right, so there it is. There's that. Boom, boom, boom. All right, so our help now works. So what's not working? Well, let's see. I believe that if I click here and I hit escape, okay, it is now resetting the form. Notice that? So let's submit, and I'm hitting escape here, and it reset the form. Let's hit enter. That still is screwed up. That is supposed to be putting in my submit button. For some reason, it's putting in my exit button. I'll have to fix that, but it's getting better. All right? So let's end the app right now and go back to our program. And just so you know, I've got about 15 images here. And where did I get those images from? All right. Well, I literally got those images. I went out onto Google Images, and I typed in Magic 8 Ball answers. And I started to look around at what came up. And I looked and looked and looked and looked and looked. And eventually, somewhere in here, I found this, which had 15 different possibilities. Yes, no, it will pass, count on it, maybe, you're hot, ask again, no doubt, absolutely, go for it, wait for it, not now, cannot tell now, very likely, and it is okay. So what I did was I cut each one of those things out, put them into their own image file. I just did it in Paint. There's better ways of doing it, but that's what I chose. And they're now going to be available to us. All right? I still would like to fix this because right now when I click on here and I look at my accept button, it's saying submit question, which is correct, which should be this one here, button submit question, and that's got the submit question, that's got this code. I have not had that happen before where something else is running. All right? So I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. Okay? But as we take a look at what's in here, and let me check my time. I'm at 18 minutes, so I'm doing great for time. All right? Oh, don't need that file. What I want to have happen, though, that's not happening right now, is I want this to change, okay? I want this to change so that when I run the program, I want the image that's in here, when I type in a question and I click submit, I want something to happen in there. I want that to give me the answer to the question, okay? So that'll be under the submit question. Right now we're calling submit question, and that is setting up all our options, which is fine. All right, so let's check. Let's first say if that text box if there's nothing in there, all right, if there's not, that means that we left it blank, okay? And I should have said .text because I'm checking the text in there. So if the text is blank, what do I want to do? Well, if there's nothing in there, I'd like to give them a message. We now know how to do that. We did it here, and we did it here. I don't need all this stuff, so let's just grab this thing again, this message box.show that we had. So let's grab all of that. And if it's empty, all right, we're going to say, you must answer a question. So, no question entered. Again, we'll make this an OK. And we'll change this one. We don't want it to be question. We'll say dot, how about exclamation? All right. So now let's check and see what happens if we put nothing in there and we click this. You must answer a question. That should work both from here and from here. And you notice that it does. So that's good. It still removed everything. All right. But we don't want that to be removed unless we actually put a question in there. All right. So what does that mean? That means that instead of asking this question after we already disabled, etc., we want to ask the question first. So I'm going to grab that code, cut it to the clipboard, and put it at the top of this routine. And we'll put a comment here that says, check for empty input. All right. Now, watch what happens, because it still is not complete. Because when I come in here, it does ask me the question. But if I click OK, it still removes it. Well, what I want to have happen is when you click this, and if you click OK, I just want you to come back to here. And I don't want that to disappear. So I've got to give it the code to do that. So what I want to tell it to do is if there was nothing in there, I want to tell it, well, I want to go take the text box and I want to set the focus there, which means put the mouse right in there. Then I just want to return. I want to get out. I'm done in that routine. So now notice, submit question. Okay, boom, it stays there, and there's my cursor. Notice too, and I'm going to do this real quickly, just if I start typing, that's pretty darn small. So what I want to do is I want to change that text. I want to make it bigger. So let's do that. In fact, let's make a bunch of the text that's in here bigger. All right, such as, well, how about our buttons? That text isn't very big. So let's go, and we'll go over here in our properties window, and we'll find a property called, appropriately enough, font. Right now it's set to 8.25. Let's make it 12 point and bold it. All right. And notice, I guess I had all of them selected. I didn't think I did. But notice how they're all bigger now. All right, they're all bold and the text is bigger. That's a little bit easier to read. But let's come into here and do the same thing. So let's go to our font property. And we'll make that about 14 and bold. So now when I run this program and I type in here, that's easier to read. We could still make it even bigger than it is. All right, so we made it in here, we made it like 14. Let's make it even bigger. Let's make it 20 point, and we'll keep it at bold. So now when you come in here and you start to type, how, will I be rich and famous? Now when I click that, it is disappearing, but this isn't changing, so that's what we have to do next. All right? Plus, now that I look at it, okay, so do I want to exit the program? No. So I type this in, I click submit question. When I reset the form, that should now disappear. There shouldn't be anything because I'm resetting the form. So let's do that so we don't forget to do that later. So when we reset the form, we also want to make sure to blank out text box. And how do we do that? We say text box answer question dot text equal double quote double quote. All right, now notice that when we run this and I type some stuff into here and I click submit, now notice when I reset there's nothing in there. All right, we're making great progress. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to set it up so that when we do click this and there's a question in there, so there's something in there, that this image changes. All right, so how are we going to do that? Well, again, we want to go inside of our submit question. All right, you could even make a case and say where we put this if statement in here, I could cut this out. Oops. I could cut this out and say check for no input, and then write another routine down here. Private void check for no input. Paste that in. All right. And I could put this in its own routine. I'm not going to for now. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. All right. So now what I want to do, though, is I want to generate the answer. So generate answer. Again, I get the red squigglies because I haven't written that yet. So I'm going to write that down here. Private void generate answer. All right, all my squigglies are gone, but now nothing will happen when it calls generate answer. What do I want to have happen? Well, I want this to change and give me some kind of image that will be reflective of what it is I'm trying to do. Now that I look at this too, and I'm a little bit of a perfectionist on some of this stuff, this looks like it's not really in the middle. So let's right mouse click on this, choose lock control. Let's move this down and try to center it. That's not too bad right there. Maybe even there. All right. Okay, let's lock it again. Okay. So again, we're coming in here. We're submitting our question, which is what? Checking for no input, resetting the controls, and now generating the answer. And that's what we want to do, is generate this answer. First thing I want to do is I want it to be any one of these 15 images. All right, so I want the system to generate a random number for me between 1 and 15. All right, so how do I do that? First thing I do is I say random. That's an actual class. That's something available to us in the system. I'm going to call it rand equals new random. And that should give me, basically, it's going to allow me very soon to set up a new random number. Okay? And I'm going to say here, int, I want a whole number here, num equals rand.next 116, which the way that works is that'll actually give me a number between 1 and 15, even though it says 16 here. All right, it'll give me one of those numbers, because that's 1 up to, but not including 16. All right, then I want to come in here and I want to say, I want to reset the image in that picture box. So I'm going to build a string that's called image file name. And I'm going to set it at first equal to nothing. Okay? So after I've done this, I want to now say image file name is equal to that number that I just generated, .toString, which makes it into a string, all right, plus .png. That looks a little strange, but let's just talk about it in English, what's happening there. What we're telling the system to do right here is we're telling it, so this will be 1.png when we get done through 15.png. In other words, it'll be one of these. Then when we get done with that, we have to set the image. So I'm going to say picture box dot image equals, was it dot image? Picture box dot, oh boy. Well, let's look. Let's have the system help us figure this out. There's our picture box. Oh, it's because it's not picture box. It's picture box magic 8-ball. I apologize. So we'll fix that. So picture box dot magic, or picture box magic 8-ball dot image equals image file name. Okay? What doesn't it like? It says cannot implicitly convert type string to system.drawing.image. So they're right now they're incompatible types. All right, I think if I do this, system.drawing.image, and I tell it to what's called cast it into this, it doesn't like that. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm still doing fine on my time, so I'm going to pause the video. Sorry, I'm going to pause the video and find out what the problem is, and then I'll be right back. All right, I'm back, and after an internet search, what I found out was there was a lot more work that I had to do here. I had to say that that image is equal to, and I had to call system.drawing.image.fromFile, etc. I had to give it the path to my project's image file, and boom, and then set the size mode. So this line that I put here that was an error is wrong, and it will be replaced by this. Oops. So don't need this anymore either. Let's put a couple comments in here to try to explain what's going on. All right. String which holds image number plus .png. All right, that's what that is going to, that's what image file name is going to hold. This is called seeding the rand. Don't worry about what that means. That just means I want to make sure that I get different random number as often as possible. And this says generate random number between 1 and 15. Set image file name to the number plus .png. And this says literally change the image on the screen. And finally, this says set the sizing of the image accordingly. So let's take it for a spin and see if it works. All right. Will I be rich and famous? Absolutely. All right. Now, one thing I'm missing, that's got to go back to the original image, so we'll have to do that. I can ask another question. And also, if you noticed, when I reset the form here, I should have my cursor in there, and it's not there right now, so we'll have to fix that too. All right, so let's take a look at all of that stuff, and then we'll finish up for this part of the lecture. So when I submit, I call submit question, which checks for no input. Okay, if it's bad, we do a return there, but that returns us to right here. So let's create a Boolean variable, which is a yes/no variable. We'll call it no input. And we'll assume that that's false, that there is input. All right? And here we're going to say no input equals this. We'll have to make some changes. Don't worry about it. We'll fix that. So if no input, that means if we had no input, we didn't put anything, we want to return. We don't want to go on. So we have to change this check for no input. We don't want it, we now want it to change to be a bool. All right, so private bool. So if that's the case, if there's nothing in there, return true, meaning true, there is no input. But if we get down to here, return false, because there is input. Let's take it again for a spin and see if it works. Okay. All right. You still have to put the cursor there and change this image back. Okay, in fact, we've got this program still running, so let's exit it. All right. I've already put the code in here to set the image back. It's very similar to what we did before. Except I don't have the right path, so I'll have to fix that path, but I'll do that in just a second. That path will have to be the same as the one that we used earlier. So I believe this. Now we'll find out real fast whether or not that worked, because when I run this, if I put something in there, submit, and reset the form, there it goes back to our original ball. Now the other thing I have to do is set the cursor right here. So that's setting the focus. So that's the other thing I want to do. Set the focus to the text box. Cannot tell now. Reset the form. There it is. There's our cursor. All right. One more thing that we're going to do, and I'm going to do this in the next one. Right now, it's fine, but it's not real flashy. And what I mean is, we'd like there to be a little music, like a ta-da, that also comes out there and shows when we're all done. So we're going to add that, and then I'm going to go back and look at the program in total. And I'll come back to do that in just a couple minutes.